Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Sarah, a marketing executive for the University of Liverpool online programs. I'm here to give a brief overview before passing on to our amazing team. Just a reminder, this session is being recorded and we will be sending the recording to everyone who signed up in the coming days. So let's get started. Our speakers today are Dr. David Higgins, Director of Studies, and Anmol Sharma, our Admissions Advisor, all here to provide information on each section and answer your questions. So today we'll be covering why we believe you should choose to study the Online Management MSc program at the University of Liverpool, what the program involves, following on with our admissions and enrollment process. We also have time for questions at the end of the session, but do feel free to drop them into the chat or Q&A box at the bottom of your screen as we go. We will review these and pick these up at the end. Okay, I will now pass over to David.
Okay, hello and a warm welcome to those that are in attendance at this webinar and those of you that will be watching the recording of this webinar. So my name is David Higgins. I am the Director of Studies for the MSc in Management Online. I'm here to talk to you a little bit about the program. I was the person who developed this program in conjunction with an amazing team of academics that have contributed to the development of the various modules that the program plays host to. But I guess before all of that, it's also quite important to place context to the amazing institution that this program is involved with, and the institution that hosts this program, which is the University of Liverpool. And whilst I don't profess to be a Liverpudlian, I am Irish in nationality. I have had the immense pleasure of being part of the Liverpool community for the last 20 years. I'm relatively young to Liverpool University. I'm here 10 years now. And it doesn't seem that long because it has gone so quickly. But I have found a real home here in the University of Liverpool. And I guess a real home, because I live here, in Liverpool City and the region itself, which is so welcoming. And I guess why I'm drawing attention to that is because that welcome is so important in our online programs, that you are part of a really well-established community which holds all the virtues and all the values that I feel this city has offered me, which has been such a breath of fresh air. The university itself is one of the original red brick universities in the UK. It is a leading member of the elite Russell Group combination of universities here in the UK, and indeed a founding member of that group in its own right. It has played host to numerous noted academics internationally in all the various faculties the university has. The university is highly regarded in all the matrices and world rankings, included in the top 200 universities worldwide. We have a very eclectic community, both physically here in the university, but also online. We have a very eclectic and diverse community online, which is recognized and was most certainly at the forefront of my thoughts when I was developing this MSc in Management. We have a huge track record of graduates that leave this university to prosper in the commercial world. But also, very importantly, we have discovered a great family in those graduates, and we have developed a very strong alumni from past graduates here in the university and indeed here in the management school. And that can be replicated in the network that you can see there, that network statistic, and its reach across the global world that we live in, which is so, so important in today's environment. The idea of being able to go to 187 different countries and finding that you have a family member in your alumni that has some association with the University of Liverpool, which is absolutely astounding, and such a brilliant community to be part of. So, Sarah, if you could go to the next slide, please. That would be great. So when we were thinking about this program, I think one of the things that was in my mind was this appreciation of how busy our lives are. We live in a very, very busy world. We are very, very busy in our own right, pursuing our own careers. But also within that pursuit, we need the role of education. And I place particular emphasis on the sacrosanct nature of education and our right as individuals in society to be exposed to educational opportunities. And we now know more and more that we need education in our lives to progress in our professional development and to establish our professional identity, who we're going to become, and what we're going to be noted for as we develop in our careers. So therefore, part-time study becomes a really important part of how education can fit into the busyness of our lives, and where we can make time to live our lives, but also live our educational life within coexistence. That, in other words, our educational journey becomes part of our life, and our life becomes part of our educational journey. And for me, that was a founding factor in the development of the program that I'm going to speak about today. Equally within that, as I've alluded to in our previous slide, feeling part of a community when you are part-time and when you're part-time online is extremely important. I placed a lot of emphasis in my initial thoughts around developing this program of how we can ensure our students feel part of something. You are part of a family. You are engaging with the family that is there to be nurtured, crafted, and to feel and be exposed to the values that are in place here in the University of Liverpool and the Liverpudlian region in its own right. So establishing a product in terms of a course that allows us to do that against a strong online learning platform became a very key founding building block for me when I started to think about how we develop that program. But equally within having those infrastructural networks, which are really important, those foundational building blocks, having curriculum and having mechanisms of teaching that then resemble the excellence of those building blocks became really important. So curriculum and how we deliver it becomes an extremely important part of our online delivery and its offering. And of course, within that, you are automatically, by its very nature of that thinking, starting to tailor programs to individuals, but also you're starting to construct relationships for those individuals so that you feel part of something. Your own worth, your own identity in this program becomes really important, whilst at the same time becoming part of a wider community where you feel valued and where you feel cared for, which are key ingredients for me in terms of how we even start our educational journeys. So we must have confidence in what we're doing. We must feel there are people looking out for us. And we must feel also a sense of challenge in terms of the journey we're embarking upon. So they were core ingredients, if you like, when I started to think about this program that we are now talking about here today. So Sarah, if you can go to the next slide, please. So this brings us on to the MSc in Management. And I think within this program, having really thought about the building blocks I've just mentioned about, the next thing for me was to think about, well, what are we trying to do within this program? What needs are we trying to serve for up-and-coming graduates, for up-and-coming professionals, that really speaks into their career at this particular moment in time? So in other words, trying to create some sense of validation. You've thought about this program of study. So how do we validate your thinking against what we feel graduates and professionals need at this moment in time? So the first thing that came to my mind is, we're operating in challenging times. Whilst historically we would have read about human suffering and various crises that the human race would have gone through, we are mindful that we've just gone through a very catastrophic period of time with COVID-19, which has left a lot of legacies in terms of how we behave as individuals, how we engage with one another, and how we progress in our lives up until this point and into the future. We know through technology, our industries have become very fast-paced, and life is becoming very, very busy. So how we start to recognize all of those factors and at the same time start to think about, well, what do we really need for the practice of management now, but also in the future? So my focus started to become very much geared towards the individual. What is it the individual needs now? How can we start to understand that need? But also, how can we see that need develop in future years? So what opportunities can we create by doing this program study for the student, for you guys, as you progress, not just in the course, but as you progress beyond the course in your own future development? So learning the individual became core to my thinking in that right, coupled to the environment that we find ourselves in. So thinking about professional development, professional skills, thinking about the intellectual ability of the individual in terms of offering them the best possible opportunity to expand their knowledge, whilst at the same time using their experiences to date. So saying to the students, saying to you guys, your knowledge and your experience is of huge importance to this program. You come to this program where we value that experience. We value your knowledge. And for us, it's about how we then start to develop that experience and knowledge into various subject matters that will equip you with the skills and intellect you need now, but not only now, but within the future. To give you those professional core skills became really important. So you can start to see where the words such as nurturing and crafting started to come into my dialogue as I started to think about how we start to transition people on this program from inception into the program, through the program, to moving on from the program after a successful course of study. So nurturing those skills and equipping those skills and developing competencies that will enrich the experiences of the individual on the program, but will enrich their own professional development as they progress through the program. And paying attention to the experiences of the individual as they do all of that. Sarah, next slide, please. So this is all then done within the context of a phenomenal management school. The University of Management School is what we would refer to as a triple accredited management schools, from the AACSB to the Amber to the EQUIS accreditations. These are globally renowned gold standards that not every management or business school has. The University of Liverpool Management School has been recognised through these standards as being one of the most elite schools in the UK and, as you can see in our rankings, worldwide. My colleagues that have contributed to this programme are leading researchers in their own right in the field and have brought their own skills and aptitudes into developing curriculum that offers you real insight into current issues that we're dealing with within the world and indeed within management practice in today's environment. Because of this, we are globally renowned. There is no other way of saying it. I know that may sound a little bit arrogant, but we are one of the best. And this program, I'm going to say quite cheekily, is one of the best in terms of what we're trying to do in the program, equally in terms of the curriculum we've developed and the academics that have contributed to the development of that curriculum. So our school, as I say, is internationally known. My colleagues are amazing, internationally renowned scholars, and you have this ability to engage with the curriculum that these guys and ladies have created, which is absolutely phenomenal, underpinned by a caring, understanding, and valued ethos. We value you. We value what you do, what you bring to these programs is critically important. Next slide, Sarah. So within that, we utilize some core principles within the program. Now, these are quite technical kind of ideas, but I'm going to speak to them. I'm going to speak to them and through them and to you in a very, very kind of simplistic way. A lot of my principles are around action and learning. We learn as we engage in action. You are coming to this program with experience. You've been out there. You've been doing stuff. You've been doing stuff that I could only ever dream of doing. You're coming to this program with that knowledge and with that experience. What we try to do, what I'm trying to do on this program, is then taking that experience and bringing it into action and saying, okay, let's think about how some of these experiences start feeding into our understanding of finance, our understanding of strategy, our understanding of social and moral responsibilities, our understanding of self as a person in development, as a manager in development. Now, because our emphasis are placed on being in action, therefore we're trying to say, bring those experiences into the curriculum. Bring those experiences as we talk about them in terms of how you're relating to the curriculum. So our curriculum is opened specifically for your experience to be center in terms of how we start to assess and engage the student body with some of the materials we start to look at. And this fosters a sense of reflection and action. So in other words, you thinking about what you're doing, you finding meaning in what you're doing, you're suddenly starting to create your own identity as you move from module to module. But don't forget, that's a progressive process. The modules are in place to build this identity for you, the identity that you're trying to create and you're establishing within your career. So you become known for something. You become known as an expert within certain ideas that modules might produce for you in terms of how you make sense, contributing to your CV, contributing to your network, contributing to you and your organization in positive ways that lead for positive change in a world that really needs positive intellect and direction. So we seek to engage you in aspects of learning that are discussion orientated, that explore your experiences, and that develop your own existing knowledge, as well as bringing new knowledge into that existing knowledge through the modules we have developed. So next slide, Sarah, please. So as you can see, here's the course structure. These kind of things, they just sometimes come out as titles. But as I say to you, the most important thing to look on these are, they are developmental modules in terms of they develop you from one module to the next. They're not just simply individual modules that you do. They are modules that are carefully articulated to allow you to progress, to see progression. So we start off with management practice, becoming a leader, ethical and sustainable business practice. So these are the foundational stones of the issues that we have to deal with in the world today. You know, how we start to think about management practice, how we start to differentiate our thinking in terms of our own leadership, and how we now need to be so mindful of our relationship between the ecological environment we all share, but also our moral responsibilities as leaders and managers within that ecological environment that we all share. So they're the foundational bases. We then start to explore those foundational bases coupled to your own experiences and knowledge around how we start to do things. How do we start to make things happen through finance, through strategic and contemporary organizational structures and planning, through our own identity and learning, and how we start to recognize that within the global context of management practice. And then the futures. How do we innovate? How do we become entrepreneurial in how we think about what the future may hold for us? This is where we really start to shape our identity in the program itself, where you start to become, if I may say so, bigger than the program. The MSc is helping you, but this is where you start to grow and start to show where your values and worth are as an individual practicing manager in your own career and your own experiences. And that's encapsulated in our entrepreneurship and innovation module, our research methods, how we inquire into the world, how we're making sense of this world to progress this new knowledge that we're getting, and then eventually into your dissertation. And that's essentially what the program is made of. So think about it as a foundational stone, then moving into more strategic type thinking of how I start to understand and make sense of myself as an eminent manager and leader, and then a futures role, how I start to take that forward to have real impact in not only my own career, but in the betterment of the world as a result of your studies. Next slide, Sarah. Thank you. So here again, it's a little bit more about how we blend that curriculum together, as I've just said. Blending in all the various factors that we have to take account, that we have to be mindful of as we make decisions, as we learn to appreciate not just ourselves, not just our experiences, but what the world will need from us as we move into the future. Building your academic identity as a credible scholar that is capable of undertaking these challenges. And I am of full belief that the curriculum we have outlined here will enable you to do that, because it appreciates who you are as an individual. It cares for you as an individual, and it seeks to promote you as an individual. You most certainly come out of this program with knowledge and skills. That's without a shadow of a doubt. You come out of this with real skills, with real knowledge that you were able to apply in a real world. It's not that you're simply going into university, sitting in a library and studying all these theories. You're actually coming from the real world and going back into the real world and a part of the real world as you move through this program of study. So you take and you grow your knowledge. And that is, of course, manifested in your own growth and your own development. And you leave this program with an identity. You come in with an identity, you're nurtured into an identity, and you leave with a stronger identity. And that is so, so important. But equally, you leave as a graduate of a phenomenal institution that stands for phenomenal values that is incorporated in this program here. And your impact on the world will be phenomenal, I think, in my view. So, next slide, Sarah. So, this then is all encompassed within a learning environment which we recognize as being critically important. So here is our community. We need and we have an environment in this program which seeks to foster inclusivity. It seeks to embrace diversity. We want your opinions. Not all of our opinions will be the same. That creates the dynamic where we can question, we can provoke, we can test, we can think about. We have space to create and nurture. But equally within all of those things, we have to feel valued, we have to feel cared for, and we have to feel supported. And the online environment that we've created here in Liverpool does all of those things. That is supported by the phenomenal student support teams that we have in operation also, who will help you through the application process, who will be with you during that process, but also who will be with you during that program. That is also resembled in the tutors that we have in this program, who are there to appreciate, to understand, to nurture, to develop, and care for you as you move through this program of study. It's not always easy. undertaking any academic qualification, you need to have those foundational humanistic values in order to excel at the program you're undertaking. And I do believe that we have created such an inclusive program here where we do appreciate diversity, we do appreciate questioning, we don't run away from it. We're here to listen, to understand, to make sense as a learning community. And that's what we have here on the MSc. We have a learning environment, technically supported, humanly supported, but also at the center of all that is us, you, me, the support teams. We are collective and we're doing this journey together. Nobody is left behind. Next slide, please, Sarah. So that's really the summary of kind of the program itself. The program, when you see it in action, there'll be lecture casts, there'll be interaction discussion boards, you'll have access to all the libraries, practical activities. So all the things you would expect to see in a learning environment are there, but they're done in a very, very high skilled fashion of high quality and highly interactive. So I do hope that has made a little bit of sense to you. Sometimes when you have created these programs, you get a little bit favoritism, or show maybe a little bit of favoritism. But I'm so glad I have had the opportunity to share with you the values I've tried and have feel successfully integrated into this program. And this program is, one of the best programs you can engage with. And I do hope you've found this in some way enlightening, and it would be lovely to see you on the program at some point over the coming months or years ahead. So thank you so much, and thank you very much, Sarah, for flicking through the slides. I really do appreciate that. And I'm going to go on mute now, if that's okay.
Thank you, David, for the first session. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Anmol, and I'm part of the admissions advisory team working with the University of Liverpool online. One of the most important facets of my job is to guide future students such as yourself, to guide them along this entire journey of the entire application process. Today, I will be going through just now the steps that would be important for you as future students to take in order to make an application with us, as well as be sharing some other relevant information that we would want you to know about the entire application process. Sarah, if you could go for the next slide, please. Thank you. So I'll start with giving you a brief overview about the entire application process that future students partakes in order to make an application online. In order for you to make an application, you would need to complete an online application form that will ask you to provide some information such as your personal details, the program that you would wish to apply for, the start date, considering that the program has multiple start dates. So we would also like for you to provide us with the start date that you would wish to apply for, and a general overview of your background, both academic and professional. The reason why we tend to take this information is for us to help you assign a designated admissions advisor, which would guide you along the entire process to make your application process as efficient as possible. You would also be then needed to submit a certain set of documentations in order to make a complete application. I will also go through a list of those documents that you would be required to provide. The first document would be in the form of a valid identification document. The requirement from this document would be that it must have a date of birth on it and should be a valid documentation. Examples would include a valid driving license or a passport from your issuing country. The second document that you would be required to provide would be an up-to-date CV, a resume highlighting all your roles and responsibilities that you might have undertaken in your previous and your current professional environment. Considering that the programs offered are all master level programs, we would also be requiring for you to provide us with your previous educational certifications and transcripts. In cases where the transcripts might not be in the English language, you would be required to provide with certified translations as well. And we would also encourage students to provide us with any professional certifications that they might find supportive towards their application. Uh, then we would also require students to provide us with their personal statement. A statement of purpose would generally be a 300 to 500 words essay, which would include a little about their motivation for studying the program, their previous experience of how this relates to the program, if it does, and then maybe a little about the future ambition with this qualification and in regard to your career as well. Lastly, because the program is predominantly taught in the English language, there are certain international students who would be required to provide proof of their English language proficiency. For some students, this criteria can be met by providing a high school level grade certification in English. However, for most of our applicants, we would encourage them to provide us with an IELTS for an IELTS academic test score or an equivalent test, which must be taken within the last couple of years. I would also like to make note that the University of Liverpool Online also provides for an in-house English test for students to take in the case when the students might not have an IELTS or a TOEFL examination score at the point of application. This test again is completely free of cost and tests you on more or less the same parameters as an IELTS or a TOEFL test score does. If you could move to the next slide, please. Thank you. In this slide, I would like to explain the entire admissions process that a prospective student generally tends to go under. So at the on-take, you would be assigned with a personal admissions advisor whose role would be to help you through the process right from the point of your making the first inquiry or any information request. The admissions advisors are there in order for you to offer a guidance on all the programs that are offered by the University of Liverpool Online, as I mentioned earlier. There are certain programs that are designed as specialist programs. On the other hand, there are some which are more general in nature. So your advisor would be more than happy to help you understand the entry requirements for all these respective programs that you might be interested in, as well as provide you some advice on what programs might be more in alignment with your career goals and experience. The advisors would also ensure that the documents that are provided are suitable, and you also be able to send us, and in case that if there are any additional documents that might be required, your admission advisor would ensure that those additional documents are provided and are not missing from your application. The admissions advisors also can provide you suggestions on personal statement writing as well, if that is something that you might not be sure of exactly what might be included in the statement, or if there might be certain concerns about missing anything out. The students advisors would be more than happy to guide you on the process. Although information about what is required in the personal statement can also be found on the application form when you go onto the website and make an application. Once you're ready to make the application, you can do that by going directly onto our website. I would also like to make sure that the application process is absolutely free of cost. So there is no fee associated while you're making the application and filling the application form and submitting the required documents. Your application, once submitted, is then initially reviewed by your admissions advisor, who, as mentioned, will ensure that all the documents are suitable and eligible and in alignment with your application. When your application is as strong as possible, the application is then passed on to the admissions manager, and the director of studies would then conduct a final review to check if the student is eligible for the program, and as well as to ensure that the documents are correct and in place. Lastly, once approved, you would then be issued with an offer letter which confirms your place and also provides you with instructions to the subsequent steps going forward. In the case when there's a conditional offer that's offered to students, we would also provide you with details confirming the conditions of your entry. And once these conditions have been met, is when you would then be provided with an unconditional offer. We would need for students to accept their place onto the program after they've been provided with an offer, by accepting an acceptance form and also making an initial deposit payment in order for them to secure their place onto the program. This initial deposit also covers, as a part of their tuition fee, as the first installment towards the program. So nothing. So after making the initial deposit, nothing will be further due until the student begins the course of studies. Sarah, if you could move to the next slide, please. Thank you. In this particular slide, we would just be going through the tuition fee, with respect to the program in specific. As you can see on the slide, the program is further divided into three categories. The first one is what we call as the postgraduate certification, or the PG cert. This program requires for the student to undertake 4 modules, each encompassing 15 credits. The total duration, or the indicative duration that it'll take for a student to complete their PG cert qualification, is approximately 10 months. And the total tuition fee for this entire duration of those 10 months for the PG certification program is £5,623. The next category within the program is the postgraduate diploma. The postgraduate diploma, as you can see, requires a student to complete a total of 120 credits, which are further distributed along 8 modules. The minimum time period that will require for any student to complete a postgraduate diploma is approximately 20 months. And the total tuition fee associated with the postgraduate diploma is £11,246. Lastly, the entire master's program would require a student to complete a total of 180 credits. The last bit of 60 credits that would be required for any student in order for them to complete their master's would include their dissertation, which requires any student an additional 10 months to complete. So in total, for any student to complete the entire master's program would require them to complete a total of 180 credits, which further are distributed into 9 modules, the 8 modules of subjects, and the final module encompassing their dissertation project. The minimum time period required for the student in order for them to complete their master's program is a total of 30 months. And the total tuition fee, again, for the entire duration of those 30 months for the entire master's program is £16,868. I would also like to make a note at this point in time that monthly payment plans are available for all our programs. It is simply these monthly payment plans can easily be calculated by dividing the total fee by the equal number of months that is required for any student for them to complete. I would also like to mention that the fee structure is also subject to change as the fee structure is reviewed annually. As such, the fees on the screen that you can see are only applicable for the next intake, which happens in the month of January. If there is any change in the fee structure, it will be mentioned on our website, and the website gets updated on a periodic and regular basis. So if there are any changes that do tend to happen for the fee structure, you would be able to see them upon the advisors, or in the other case, you could easily get in touch with your respective admissions advisor, and they'll be more than happy to inform you about any changes in the fee structure. Also, lastly, the fees that you can see that you can just see on the screen are exclusive of any taxes that might be applicable in your country. Now, this is beyond the control. This is beyond our control. So this is something that we can't do much about. With respect to any taxes that might be incurred as an additional expense on these things, we generally encourage students to get in touch with the admissions team, and they would be more than happy to explain to them if there are any external taxes that might be applicable in certain geographies of the world. Sarah, if you could move to the next slide, please. Thank you. Here, I would just like to discuss all the scholarship programs that the university offers with respect to the master's program. The university does offer regional discounts up to 20%. These are automatically applied based on the country of residence, so there isn't any need to apply for them separately, and the admission advisors can confirm the eligibility for these scholarships when the students generally tend to apply or inquire. So there isn't any additional information or any additional set of documentations that would be required from students in order to become eligible for these scholarships, as long as a student has been able to provide with a complete application. They automatically become eligible for these scholarships. We also do offer a 5% discount if a student does decide to make the payment, if they decide to pay the fee fully upfront before the start of the program. This is often generally seen as the case of preferred payment for students who are funded by their employers. So it might be beneficial for those who are potentially looking for employer funding, and they might want to keep this into consideration if they have a conversation around this thing with their employers. Uh, then we also offer a 10% alumni discount for all the University of Liverpool graduates. You kindly note that this discount cannot be used in association with the regional scholarship, but can be combined with the upfront payment discount. So the 10% alumni discount cannot be clubbed along with the regional scholarships available to students. But if a student does tend to decide to make their total fee upfront, this 10% discount can then be clubbed with the 5% discount available when the student decides to pay this tuition fee upfront. We do offer a variety of executive scholarships for our programs at the moment. It won't be possible for me to run through them, all of them at the moment, as there are numerous discounts that are available for the intake. But if you would wish to find out more about these discounts, I would encourage you to get in touch with the admissions advisors team, and we would be more than happy to make you aware of all the scholarship that might be available with respect to the programs. If you could move to the next slide, please. Yeah, on this slide, you can see the intake for the Master's Management program for the next academic year. As I mentioned before, the next intake happens on the 14th of January, and the university is already in the process of receiving applications. So, if any for students who would be willing to start with the program starting in January, I will highly encourage for them to make the application at the earliest, considering that there are limited spots available on the program, and the university is seeing a heavy inflow of applications for the same. For subsequent intakes, the intakes then post January, the intakes would happen in the month of May and then in the month of October. We are still in the process of understanding what the tuition fee and the available scholarships might be for the intakes in the month of May and October. But we would highly encourage students to get in touch with us at the earliest if they wish to start, even if they wish to make an application for these particular intakes as well. If you could move to the next slide, please. Yeah. So these are the links that you can find onto the website. These would guide you onto the website where you can find all the information with respect to the program, and the link at the bottom would direct you directly onto the application form, where you can just which most likely will allow you to make an application towards the program. I guess we now should be, with that, we should be open to taking questions.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, David and Anmol. This was very insightful. So yes, this concludes our presentation for today. We hope this has given you all a great insight into the management program here at the University of Liverpool. And yes, I suppose now it's time for the Q&A section. So please do feel free to send them in. You can do this by typing it in the chat at the bottom of your screen. So I suppose let's start. The first question we have, how will I interact with others on the course?
Yeah, I wouldn't mind taking that. Yeah. Yeah. So all students who generally tend to get enrolled onto the program would be provided with what we refer to as a virtual learning experience platform, and that the platform it allows for students to it allows students to then engage with fellow peer group within the cohort, as well as engage with professors and lecturers with respect to any inquiries that they might have with respect to with respect to their modules. So the platform would allow you to get in touch with your fellow peers as well as professors, whether it could be through chat or whether it would be engaging with individual engagements as well. So the virtual learning, the platform does allow for students to get in touch with fellow peers as well as professors.
Great, thank you so much, Anil. So the next question is, can I take a study break?
Would you like me to answer that as well? Yeah. So the program does allow, it does give the flexibility to students to take a break in between. As I mentioned in my slides before, that the minimum time period that requires for a student to complete any of the programs that they might to participate in is 10, 20, or 30 months. And the reason why I said that might be the minimum time period is because it allows students to take breaks in between, whether it is owing to their personal or professional commitments. The university does allow the flexibility for a student to take a gap of a maximum of 1 year in between. So for example, if a student does want to, if they happen to partake in the postgrad certification and upon completion they do want to take a break in between, they can take a gap of a maximum of 1 year, after which they can again resume back with the postgraduate diploma if they do, if they wish to. And similarly, if they're partaking in the postgraduate diploma and upon completion if they wish to take a break before continuing with their masters, they can take a gap of a maximum of 1 year in between as well.
Great, thank you. Oh, I think we have a question in the Q&A chat. So the question is, are there internships available for students in the program?
So the university, the curriculum in itself does not offer for like internships, but the university does provide for a lot of opportunities for students to engage with people. There is a career zone facility that is made available to all the students who do tend to partake in the program, who would guide them in terms of sharpening their networking skills or what needs to get into their resumes and CVs in order for when they foray into the world post completion of the program. Also, what the program does is that it all the students who do tend to participate in the program, they automatically get inducted into the vast alumni network of the university, which spread across the entire world. So it does give the students the opportunity to network with the alumni base as well, that's spread across the globe. So those are the kind of opportunities that the students would be made available to once they partake in the program.
Great, thank you so much. The next question is, will I have a graduation ceremony?
Yeah, you will have a graduation ceremony. There are two. The ceremonies happen twice a year, so it will be dependent upon your point of entry into the program in terms of what month you start. But there are two graduation ceremony slots, one in May and one actually coming up now in December. So there are 2 points of graduation, which is May and December. And those points of graduation will be determined by by when you start the program. They will be determined which point you'll be graduation at, and also your progress through the program. But yeah, there are 2 points of graduation, and they're great days out, great affairs, and very, very proud moments. So yeah, there is.
Great, thank you. So the next question is, will my award say online on the certificate?
Oh I'll have to check that out. My instinct is, I won't even go on my instinct. That would need to be checked out. Go on.
If you wouldn't mind, David, I could answer that.
Yes, excellent.
Because that's something that's frequently asked by students who do tend to inquire about the program. So I would be fairly confident in saying that the degree certificate doesn't mention that the program was completed online, and the degree certificate offered to all students who complete the program is exactly the same as offered to students who complete the program on campus. So there wouldn't be any mention on the degree certificates of the program being completed online.
Okay, thank you. I think we have time for a few more questions. So the next question is, do I need a visa to apply?
Yep, considering that it's an online program, so that is not a mandatory requirement for you to provide. The program again can be completed online from start to finish from any part of the world, as long as you have a strong internet connection and a system in place. So you would not be required to be you won't be required to go through the visa process or provide any sort of visa in order to make an application towards the program.
Great, thank you. I think we have a question in the Q&A section of the chat box. So someone's asked, if eligible, can scholarships be combined? Can you receive more than one scholarship?
Perfect. So as I mentioned in the slides before, the only scholarship that can be clubbed together would be if you're eligible for an executive or regional scholarship, and then that can be combined with an upfront scholarship. But apart from that, unfortunately, none of the scholarships can be combined together. So the only combination that generally tends to work is when a student decides to make the payment upfront. That 5% can then be added to either the executive or the regional scholarship or the alum scholarship that's made available to students.
Perfect, thank you. I think we have time for one more question. What are the technical needs to study the course?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm unsure of what is it. I presume you mean the technical infrastructure.
I think I assume things like maybe if it's just a laptop or a different type of electronics.
I think that obviously because it's online, you'd need to have access to obviously a network and have a laptop and so on and so forth. But I would say maybe that's a question that you can maybe answered in a bit more detail in terms of the technical infrastructure, maybe through you, Sarah, at some point, or Amal at some point as well.
Yes, definitely. Just to add to this, I could say that all the studying is done through the VLE platform, isn't it? So our virtual learning environment, and it works across desktop, tablet, and mobile devices. If you would like to know more, obviously don't hesitate to get in touch with us, but hopefully this answered the question. And I think we have one last question just came through. So someone has asked, how much time are you expected to dedicate per week for each module?
Okay. So what we do encourage students is to devote a minimum of 15 to 20 hours in a week in order to stay on course with the program. Those 15 to 20 hours again can then be designed by the students themselves based upon their own professional and personal commitments. So as long as a student is devoted to applying those 15 to 20 hours in a week just so that they can stay on course with the program, I guess that's the requirement that we generally tend students to encourage about, so that they just don't lag behind along with their fellow cohort members.
Okay, perfect. I believe this has concluded our session for today. That's all the questions we have time for today as well. Thank you so much to our speakers, and thank you to everyone for joining us today. If you have any more questions, don't hesitate to get in touch with us by visiting our website. And we wish you all a great day. So thank you for joining.